Could you briefly introduce yourself and your role at COL Group?
Hi guys, I think if you're in the microdrama space, you've probably seen my face a lot. So I'm the GM of COL Group International. My name is Tim, and I'm based in Singapore. My role focuses on the expansion of the microdrama industry internationally, largely with the distribution of content, and also the expansion of the platforms that we own. One of them would be FlareFlow. So that's in summary my job, but the day-to-day is so much.
What about COL Group? Could you briefly introduce it?
Sure. So COL Group has been around for the last 26 years. It's a listed company in Shenzhen and with headquarters in Beijing. So we are originally an IP company, the second largest IP company in China. We were one of the first companies to venture into the microdrama space back in 2021, and also were one of the first companies to go into the US to expand on the microdrama space, and we have found a lot of success. Through the years, we have always been pushing the microdrama evolution. We are in a very interesting time. I think there are more and more competitors, more and more participants in this area. But then collectively, we are still one of the biggest platforms in the world.
FlareFlow is one of your products, I would say. Could you briefly introduce FlareFlow and its positioning in the short drama market?
FlareFlow launched in 2025 mid-year, and within a very short period of time, FlareFlow became number one in the US, and obviously the numbers does fluctuate in terms of positioning, but with hundreds of platforms that have launched, FlareFlow is still within like the top 10, sometimes top 5, which I think is quite remarkable. And I think one of the biggest success factor with regards to FlareFlow is its experienced team. I think it really does help that we have a team of people that really knows how to do this differently, and also is backed by the massive IP library that from COL. As of February this year, we have exceeded over 30 million registered users, and we have released over 5,000 drama series. The platform is available in more than 200 countries, and 14 different languages. It's been quite an exciting time for us.
What type of genres or story formats currently perform best on FlareFlow?
Actually, we have a lot of it is, to be honest, like what you expect, the romance genres, the CEO genres, the revenge genres, but we are really rapidly expanding. By the time this interview goes out, there should be some exciting announcement about the expansion of genres and categories. I don't want to ruin the surprise, but yeah, it's very much in the same vein where our core audience has been the audience that has fundamentally started loving microdramas. So these genres do persist, but I do think that we are at this stage where we need to really grow and push the boundaries outside of these genres. And there's always this debate, right? Like if you don't have the demand, you have to create the demand. So the natural fact is that there is a demand for female romance genres, and that's why there is so much supply. But now there is an oversupply. So now we need to see how we can expand this with creating more demand for people who have not started watching microdramas and have them hooked into it.
Why do you think short drama first get traction among female audiences, especially in US and European market through romance-driven content?
It's a very good question. I think the female romance dramas are simple stories that has connected with audiences many years ago. When we started as a company, we did like Wangwen, which is like web novels, right? And a lot of these web novels were also written for females. It really is a way for them to connect with this characters and stories, and being able to be taken out of this world. And a lot of times for guys, they like to be taken out of this world through things like games. Content consumption with the female audience tends to be a first and immediate approach. I think that's why at very first we know that there is a demand for it, which is why there is this supply that answers this question, yeah, of in terms of like why female audiences is a key driver of this.
You mentioned about the data from the market perspective. How will you describe the current US short drama audience? I want to understand maybe like gender, age range, or viewing habits.
It's largely female, around 70% female, and the age range is approximately from 18 to 34. So we're seeing with FlareFlow's content, it's reaching out to even younger audiences. And I think that really helped us to change and shape the way we want to do our content because we want to be more and more socially responsible, particularly knowing that the appeal has gone out to obviously younger audiences. I think when most of these platforms, including us, when we first started, we want to target the people in their 30s, right? And that's why the storylines are very focused on people who are growing up, CEOs and stuff like this. But we're seeing that there is a stronger interest in the younger audience group. So that's why we have started to shift our content to be more wholesome, at the same time still capturing the essence of the microdrama, the strong hooks, the exciting storyline. One of the example is we just recently did this show, which is spearheaded by one of our really good showrunner, which is Amy. And the title is called Oops, I Married My Bestie's Brother. Sounds like a similar microdrama title, but in this show there is no use of like a demeaning or degrading language, and there is no over sexualization of the content, no offensive languages and stuff, which I think is really good. And that show itself has generated over 200 million views, and over 15 million in terms of app recharge revenue. And this really shows that you don't have to push the boundaries to become a successful microdrama platform. And we're seeing that being one of the leader in the space is very important for us to drive this narrative to the community.
I'm just curious, content preference between younger female audience and let's say people are 30 years old. Is any difference?
To be frank, there are no distinct difference because the reality is that the content is quite universal, and even someone who is in their early 20s to 30s, right? A lot of these topics and themes are quite relatable. I would say it's just a matter of, I guess, the relevance of the situation. So I'll give you an example. Like the title I shared with you earlier, it's a very I basically married my best friend's brother, right? And it's something that could happen to someone in their 20s, and it could also happen to someone in their 30s. So I genuinely think that because of the genres that is currently being set, is quite wide. It's just like how rom-com is in Hollywood. It doesn't really silo the content in terms of the difference. I think if you go younger, like below 18 and stuff, I think the content will probably change. But at this point of time, those are not our target audience too.
And in the US global markets, we haven't really seen many male-oriented microdramas break out yet. Why do you think the male side hasn't fully opened up so far? You just mentioned about games, like guys like to play games. Have you tried anything in this space, and what have you learned from those attempts?
I always like to think that when you do things like, especially when it comes to content and anything that's a lifestyle driven, it's about habits, right? So it's not a natural habit for guys to spend time watching shows. Like most of the time, as a guy myself, I like to watch very informative things, like documentaries and stuff. Our habits tends to be, when we have free time, I want to go do some gaming. I want to look at cars. I want to look at watches, So a lot of this interest in other spaces. And most of the time, like a show, like, for example, The Last of Us, which is a game remake of a TV series, would appeal to a guy. For them to kind of break away from the habits that they have to go and watch a microdrama series requires a change in habit. And that motivation needs to be quite strong. So it doesn't mean that if you were to put a male title or male show, you could actually make the male audience interested. You need to shift the habit. You need to introduce them to something that they are not used to. And for most times, even like watching movies, it's usually the girlfriend who will say, I'll bring my boyfriend to go watch this show. So a lot of times, I guess the shift won't be a case of like moving from a female-oriented show to a male-oriented show. It will be a case of like a female-oriented show to more male and female friendly. And then as time passes, when they start getting used to it because they watch with their girlfriends or watch with their moms, they start watching it eventually too.
That's very interesting because in China, we start with male-oriented stories. The
Hmm.
first booming genre is male-oriented story, but it's targeting the middle-aged men in lower tier cities or small cities or rural areas. That's how they expand.
I think it's a very interesting differentiation between China, even in the US, as well as international. Someone like myself who's based out of Singapore, and I deal with a lot of counterparts that are overseeing content for like Southeast Asia and producing stuff. And I realized that, every single country, every single region, obviously we can group China in one, we can group US in one, but outside of that, every single region really differs. Content appeal does really change based on the lifestyle habits of the people. And it really comes to the point of what are they used to and also what do they do. For example, right, like in Southeast Asia, a lot of these, even narrow it down to even Singapore, right? A lot of people actually consume content online, both men and women. So for male-driven content, even in Singapore, it would definitely work. I guess it really depends on the dynamics of the markets and it does change. So it's not going to be a one-size-fit-all scenario.
Any male-driven content you've tried? Is any example that, like, what have you learned from those attempts?
We are doing something, and there is some exciting stuff that's coming up later this year. I think I'll leave it as that, so you can watch this space. Yes, something exciting is coming.
Cool. Looking forward to it. As a leading platform group, how do you use data in decision making? For example, when you evaluating a short drama, which performance matrix matter most, such as retention rate, completion rate, or LTV, and how do these signals influence promotion strategies and future content direction?
For me, the most important matrix is actually the average revenue per daily active user. So at the end of the day, it's all about how much revenue we can make and whether if this is going to pay for itself and are we able to reinvest this money to do more productions and also appeal to the same group of audience. I think views is important, but at the same time, and completion rate is important, right? But at the same time, we are a business, and with any business, revenue is key. I would prioritize that over anything else. There is a demand for microdramas. It is very clear. So if you were to put a show on YouTube or any even Daily Motion, you will get the views. But it doesn't mean that you're going to make money out of this. And I think that that misconception is that, you have a lot of views means you have a lot of money. Even with like apps like Netflix and, Apple, right? They don't disclose the exact views of the series. And you don't really know how much money they make. My point is that, at this point where out of this game, which could change, what really matters is the average revenue that each user bring.
Because I know for the revenue, they're also related to how much you spend on promoting these content. And I know like currently paid user acquisition still plays a major role in short drama distribution. So when evaluating paid traffic campaigns and which data signals do you focus on most? So do those figures influence content creation or genre selection? If so, how?
There is always a need to protect and ensure that the current audience group is their needs and expectations are met. But at the same time, while we do that, right, if we were to continue to keep it this way, As you can imagine, there are so many platforms out there that is trying to capture the same group of audience. It goes without saying that everyone is competing with each other, and also the audience are also not exactly loyal to a particular platform, right? Because today, if I were to watch a show on platform A, and then tomorrow I see something interesting on platform B, I'll switch to platform B. The shows are not released on a weekly basis where it keeps them going, subscribing and wanting more. So the lifespan and the time and loyalty for the apps are kept quite short. Which is why even though where we want to ensure that we capture the same group of audience, I think it's very important for the platforms to and including ourselves to find that breakthrough, which I think is due to happen this year. That would help us break out from our standard genres and standard content direction. I think this breakthrough is going to come in a time where the competition is the most intense, and I think that now is the time.
Hi, this is Maggie Han from Short Drama Alliance. A lot of people think short drama writing looks easy, but writing something that actually becomes a hit is a very different thing. It's a bit like deadlifting. You may still lift the weight the wrong way, but once it gets heavier, technique matters. That's why we created 4-week online short drama bootcamp taught in English with recorded lessons, live feedback, and guidance from mentors who have trained platform teams and experienced script writers. We help you from the core concept to the writing process. You are not doing this alone. You are not trying to figure everything out by yourself. Check out our social media for more details.
I know many Chinese platforms invest heavily in paid acquisition, which deliver fast feedback. When they do paid acquisition, they can see people are drawing to their apps. While comparatively, I think they pay less attention to is placed on long-term social media operations. So from your perspective, how should platforms balance paid traffic and organic social media growth, especially in overseas markets?
I like to reposition this in a form of like, brand respect and brand love. When you do anything in business, right, you need to look at things from respect and love. There is a lot of love for microdramas, but there's not a lot of respect for it. And we're still building it, right? This is outside of China. I think China have established itself as like high respect, high love. Like someone from a microdrama actor, you'll be like, whoa, you respect this person. But outside of China, in US and overseas market is a high love, no respect space. And as brands drive traffic, they drive awareness. I think that's where the love comes in, right? People are watching it, they love this, they love that, they do that. But then people still have the fear of telling people that I watch microdrama, I pay for microdrama. So the respect for the industry is still on the building phase. We haven't seen like breakout stars that come up from this, breakout IPs that have like spin-offs and stuff like this. It's important that while we are building this awareness of the shows and building traffic, which is paid traffic, the brands continue to build out that respect for the brand, for the industry. I think this is going to be a challenge because there are different kind of players in the space. There are players who are content IP owners like us, which are content focused. There are players that are coming from gaming background, which are there to get as much payment as possible. So they will push boundaries on content, right? They will be extreme. They will title their shows with weird names and eye-catching names. And then you're going to have mainstream platforms, TV networks that come, which has different goals. If you ask me, I think every single one of these players would have a different playbook in terms of how they would actually decide to balance out paid traffic and organic social media. But the end goal and end game is that they need to build a respectable brand, and not just a feng chao, which is like a fad. It comes and go, which I think many would go this year.
That's interesting to see. We'll see whatever happened this year. In China, there's a concept often referred to an emotional driven content, where strong emotional reactions can drive payments, even if the audience don't necessarily like the story. For example, some stories drive people angry. So they want to pay, they download and pay, want to show that want to see what's the end of this story. So as a platform, how do you actually hear audience feedback in those situations? And how does that feedback shape what gets made or just next?
We always have like focus groups, and I think having local producers, writers, to really drive the plan of content is super key. I think that's where change has come. When a lot of these platforms started, they adapt shows that are popular in from China, and that things that work, and I think that works, but to a certain extent. When it needs to really evolve, that's where the collaboration with like local international people that really knows the market to kind of shape what that content looks like is super key. So and understanding what the audience is looking for is super key as well. So I think it is filling the gap of the ecosystem. You have to start somewhere. I think we've all started. Now we need to close the loop by having audience feedback, local producers getting involved, and more importantly, getting more incorporated into the entertainment space, and not just work in silo. Because at the end of the day, we think that this is just a game for ourselves, right? But the reality is that we can only move microdrama as an industry forward if everybody embraces it. If it's just 2 or 3 platforms that is driving it, you are only targeting this small group of audience. So for it to really grow, to become mature, it really requires an industry-wide change. And also, like I said, the ecosystem needs to be complete.
Mention about the audience feedback. How do you hear the audience feedback?
In the US, there are a lot of fan groups. So for example, in April, we are actually holding a event in LA. It's a fan-based award where, we have basically fans voting for their favorite microdrama and microdrama stars. It's called the Verticaldrama Love Awards, held in LA. So FlareFlow is one of the in fact, the headline sponsor for the event, and we're driving this. So there are fan bases for actors, for the series, for the writers even. So this space is very different from, I guess, the rest of the world. So these fan bases, groups are places where we get answers, we get, feedback from.
Is it that the event hosted by Jan Cooper?
Yes, we are going to be sponsoring that event.
And also, if those fans want to give feedback, how can they give feedback? In social media?
We get a lot of comments. We get a lot of people writing to us. We also get a lot of producers writing to us saying that they watch series and they want to do more. They want to do something similar. They want to work with us. In fact, even actors themselves will reach out to us. So I think the feedback is always like a 360 loop.
I know you're distributing the COL's content. So given your experience working with platforms and partners globally, have you observed any regional genre preferences?
Out of US, out of China, every market really likes different things. And for example, right, when you want to go into a market that is say, for example, Saudi and Turkey, things like mistress, premarital sex are highly sensitive, and titles that will not work. We have to take into the consideration of political and cultural, religious point of view when it comes to content. There is a significant difference in that. There is a strong demand for family theme shows, brand-friendly shows as well. The reality is this, see, outside of the US, a lot of these other markets, the viewers, they don't really pay to watch. So when they don't pay to watch, who is going to pay for it? It's the brands and it's the networks, the platform. But if today the content has a show that has the word mistress in it, or bastard in it, why would any brand sponsor that show? They don't want their name to be tagged to a show that is potentially, even though the storyline may not be it, right? They don't want their show to be tagged along with a plot that is seemingly very outrageous. I think the trend is more family-oriented content, brand-friendly content is where I think outside of the US, we're seeing attraction in.
That's a new perspective. So I just noticed that COL's recent partnership with Harbor Rights in Europe and Latin America. So it got me thinking short drama is often described as mobile first revolution. It's watched in mobile films, but it started moving into more traditional settings like living room TVs or in-flight entertainment. How does vertical content actually work in on horizontal screens?
At the end of the day, it is still going to be a mobile first, vertical first content. But then I think the opportunity lies in a lot of these other platforms that, or even networks and OTT platforms where they realize that, if they don't start capturing vertical content, and audiences that watches it, the attention span will be split even more. One is to be able to work with some of these horizontal platform providers to extend a vertical option to them. The other reason you mentioned, like in-flight entertainment, I don't imagine it to actually come up in vertically, but you can, there are some regional flights that you take and then you go on a plane and there is no TV, right? But then sometimes they ask you to download an app where you can order food and stuff, and that's where vertical content can be consumed. So I think finding the opportunities for more of this content to go would be where some of these partnerships that I'm looking at would go for.
You distributing short drama content to other regions. Anything else you want to share?
Obviously, distributing content, not just COL content. Now we are distributing a lot of top US platform content too. Beyond COL, we also have content that are from UK, Southeast Asia, India, UAE as well. So I'm really excited to grow this space. I think that we're in the very early days of expansion of how microdrama is going to be consumed internationally. We think that the model that we see in the US would grow, but I would say that globally, it will take a very different playbook from the US and China, because the audience profile, the audience habits are completely different. The way and the ability to afford content. Even, for example, in some countries that we speak about, they don't have credit cards and they have money in their, not even a bank, in their telco and their wallets, their e-wallets. So when it comes to expansion of like the microdrama business, it's not a case of like a one size fit all approach where we take an app and put it into a country and hope that it works. It's about understanding what each of these markets are like, and tailoring it for the market itself.
How do you tailor for the market?
Because we are in such early stages and being a forerunner, right? A lot of it includes us having conversations with partners locally, to understand how and what their plans are. And from there, we then tailor what that market really needs. And we become that expert to help them to do it right. Because even though a microdrama can cost very little to produce, but at the same time, it is also very expensive to market. So I put it simply this way, Maggie, I'm sure you know, the people in the US pay for the shows, right? But outside of the US, not everyone is paying for it, and the majority doesn't pay for it. Like if you think about it, like markets like Southeast Asia where piracy is very strong, or even Africa, right? It's not that they don't want to pay, but then the affordability is not there. So if nobody, the audience is not paying for it, who is going to pay for it? That question needs to be answered, right? So the way microdrama will grow in these regions where it's not user paid will be very different from a market that is user paid. If it's not user paid, then it has to be brand paid, telco paid, super app paid. So when it comes from that, the kind of content that comes from it will be very different. You can't just take one and hope that this will work here.
As from traditional film TV studios start exploring short drama, like let's say work with COL, what is the biggest misconception you see when they trying to apply long form logic to short drama ecosystem?
I think that traditional TV, film studios, platforms, they have a different game altogether. Today, so for example, a platform like FlareFlow and even Drama Box, right? They are here to actually have people to pay after 5 episodes, 6 episodes, right? But for a TV channel, an OTT platform, they are not there to do that. Let's just say if Netflix were to launch something, right? They are not going to make you pay more for it. So what they're trying to do is they're trying to actually grow their user base, and also capture younger audience and grow their IP. So it's not the same game that we are in. So I wouldn't say that their approach is wrong, but their approach will be a different approach from our approach completely. So what they will do, for example, if today I am like a TV network, right, and I have a show about like let's just say I have a drama, a family drama that is very popular, and I want to do a second season. So when I want to do the second season, now I will think, should I do it also with vertical format? Because I want to reach younger audiences. And can I commission this show that way? Whether if they know how to do it is another thing. But I think networks and platforms are starting to think about like, okay, so now how can I do what I do differently? Versus, oh, I need to spend millions of dollars to get people to pay after 5 episodes, because it's two different games. One is a mobile gaming method where you have microtransaction. The other one is I want to retain my audience. I want to retain my IP. I want to grow my channel. I want to make sure that the people who advertise with me on TV now also advertise with me on app. Different ballgame altogether.
That makes sense. And this year, the AI generated motion comics have really taken off in China, especially in genres like mythology, fantasy, and sci-fi. So, from a market perspective, how do you see AI-driven formats fitting into the microdrama ecosystem, especially when it comes to global expansion?
So I think that again, with the different players, they will use AI very differently. There are some microdrama platforms that would think that this is a fantastic idea. They would generate as much content as they want because with AI, because at the end of the day, they want to get money, right? So they will do everything, the lowest cost, fastest output. And then there are people who wants to grow the ecosystem, which industry. And it's important that we use AI to improve workflows, make the shows more exciting, shorten production time. But there is a difference, right? Like for example, in US, there is a fan base for actors. There is a fan base for certain IPs in China as well. You can't just replace it with AI completely. Yeah. So for people who truly value content and value the industry and an ecosystem, I think AI will be used to enhance the production of microdrama. But for players who are there to get as much money as they can, put out as much content as they can, and they are doing not microdrama platform even. Like, I'm sure you see on TikTok and Instagram, there are people who are putting a lot of AI stuff online, in YouTube even. They want to basically churn and get revenue. AI will be used crazily. So the application of AI would be used very differently based on the interest of the company. So for us, I think we are scaling with AI from a workflow perspective, and then looking at testing, building out new ideas and opportunities with AI instead of completely replacing it, because we value the ecosystem, we value the need to go to space. That someone once said to me, you can't make someone cry using a computer. You have to have a real person who understands humans to do that. So I still believe that at the end of the day, AI is there to speed things up, but for the long run, you can't use AI to replace everything.
I asked this question to many people, and I will ask the same question to you. So, from your perspective, how do you define short drama, and what do you see its the core or essence?
The core essence of microdrama is, I think, fits into the way this new world that we live in, which is very much short attention span, as well as the need for a fast result and fast payoff. You know, even now, you and I, when we use AI to get answers, right? In the past, we have to Google. Even further past, we have to go to the library to search for answers. Today, we get ChatGPT or like, in international perspective or Gemini, you can get answers within 5 seconds, 10 seconds. And even sometimes when it's generating, you're like, why is it so slow? So the society has changed to be so impatient. And microdrama's core essence is to meet the need for this shift and demand of a fast answer and fast payoff. And I would be surprised that now the series are like 90 episodes. In the future, maybe they're like even shorter because people don't have the attention span to look to that. So I think the core essence is that it is because people want fast payoff and they want to see things and answers very quickly.
How do you see the future of microdrama evolving in the next few years?
I think the word microdrama is a buzzword now. I think in the future, it wouldn't be called microdrama. It would just be considered as, like vertical content and another kind of content, right? When Candy Crush came out, we call it hyper games, hyper casual games. Today it's just a game. You know, the reality is that it is going to change in a matter of months. I don't even think that in years it is I think in years it's going to be very, very drastically different. But I'm confident that the vertical space is here to stay, but the global playbook of how each country, each region will tailor their strategy will be completely different. I think people will start wanting more and demand more content that is considered premium. The premium definition of content is what keeps them watching. And the answer can only be given by people who are watching and not the providers themselves. So we will put out content, we will see what works and what doesn't work, and then we will have to redefine it, redo it, and rejig it until it meets the needs of the audience. So I anticipate it to evolve drastically, and I anticipate it to become a mainstay, but not in the way we foresee that we're seeing right now, which is a fad or a trend.
Do you have anything else you want to share?
You want to get into a microdrama space, I think you need to ask yourself, like, why are you doing it? Are you doing it because everyone is doing it? Are you doing it because you want to tell a good story? Are you doing it because you want to find new opportunities to make more money? Your drive changes the answer drastically. Microdrama is not the solution. Microdrama is channel to deliver that. How you use it and where you use it, who you use it to, changes differently in every approach. So find the right people to talk to. If you don't know anyone who talk to, I think Maggie is great. Talk to me as well. I'm happy to have these conversations to help you put you in the right direction. There is no one size fit all answer. So if someone comes and tell you you can make $10 million making microdrama, I think you need to laugh it off and then have a chat with us.